this is the painting that I did today, and it's done in a few layers. So it's mostly watercolor, but I have put a little bit of soft pastel in as well. But I don't know if you can see, it's very abstract. So there's somebody piggybacking on top of somebody else. So there's a hand there. And there's somebody else, a man in lineup. He's wearing glasses and a toque. And there's his hood. And then there's another woman in lineup. So that was done originally from ditch art. And then I just added some stuff to it. So I was inspired when I watched this urban sketching, which is not how I do things at all. But I'll talk about that in a minute. And I told you I'd show you my cat, which did not turn out
the way you planned, but it looks very impressive, I've got to say, especially the eyes.
Well, the eye is good.
I like the squirrel pretty good too.
I am impressed that I got that kind of realness out of watercolor. That eye looks
well, that's
pretty,
stunning. Watercolor is really hard to handle.
So, but the cat did not work out like I'd hoped, and that's too bad, but I'll just try another one. So I was talking about the ditch art stuff that I was doing, and it's just some of these things didn't work out that well, and well, they're meant to be just the base for something else anyway, really. So these ones are from the group that I did the cat one from. So you can see that's what the ditch art, and then that's what I ended up doing with it. And this one was ditch art, and I ended up doing something different with it too. So I will talk about that a bit. And there's James's food for today. It's just a sandwich.
I didn't start because I wanted Pauline to show it off.
Yeah. And this was the book that I used for doing the squirrel, and to a lesser extent the cat, and James's blueberry pie for dessert. Yeah. Cobweb got top of the stack, and I mean, it's just a silly horror movie, but it's kind of different. Interview with the Vampire Season 1 was awful. So that got...
I tell you, you did the eyes of the
bottom of the stack.
The eyes of the cat better than they did on the cover art of that.
Yeah,
that movie on the vampires.
Yep. Oh.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna get this out of the way for a minute.
So you can sit down.
So I can sit down. So I'll talk about the urban sketching, which I guess I gave it middle of the stack. I don't know. I like these. I like these. What do you call them? Instructional DVDs for art. But that one isn't my favorite so far. That's for sure. It's about sketching, and honestly, I'm really not. I'm not a sketcher, I guess. I don't like drawing. I just move color around, and so a lot of the time I'm like, I really got to improve my drawing skills. And so anyway, I don't think this is the way to do it, frankly.
You can learn to do fast, but I think it would encourage you to just be sloppy.
Yeah. So this artist, Mark Terrell Holmes, is not nearly the artist that Lee Hammond is.
Well, not by the looks of it.
And
I mean, he's got this guy looking kind of hip-hoppy. This woman, I don't know what's wrong with her pants.
He has an interesting process, but I don't think I don't know if he's had formal training or what.
Well, Joni Mitchell did this kind of stuff.
It says he has worked at Disney and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't... Doing what?
They wouldn't take this kind of garbage. So, yeah.
Like when he does this guy, it's interesting the way when he puts on the watercolor, like first he does the pencil drawing of his wherever he wants to go in town, like he does drawing of some place, and then he goes there with his pencil drawing of the place, and he fills in the people in real time. So one person, I mean, they're just walking by, so he tries to draw the general how they're sending their hair or something like that, because he can't capture very much at once. So one person that he draws is actually like 6 people or something, right? Because he's not paying people to hang around, he's just watching them while they're out, while he happens to be there painting. So he went to a dog park for this one, and there's a building in the background, and the dogs are running around, but
different from the dog parks around here.
Yeah,
looks as though they
yeah.
got little postage stamps.
No, it was fenced off, but there's it's interesting because it's very urban. But so then after he's done his putting his people in and stuff like that, then he'll start inking. So he'll start putting in with a marker, and he doesn't use like different kinds of shading pencils or anything like that. He just uses a number 7 mechanical. And because he says number 7s, the leads don't break as easily. And I found that too. It's really frustrating when you're using a number 5 and it's breaking all the time. But number 7s don't break. So, I mean, you'd wreck your paper trying to break a number 7, I think. So anyway, that's what he uses. And so nothing really high tech or anything like that. And then he pulls out his watercolors, and he likes the round brushes with the, and I don't. I like the, what are they called? Filbert. I like the filbert brushes. They're far superior. You can get a tiny line, you can get a little dot just in the corner a little bit, or you can swab over a whole area and you don't have lines. It's great. Brown brushes aren't bad, but they're certainly not my favorite. And he doesn't use watercolor paint the way people normally do. Like he'll have his easel up like this, and he'll be putting the watercolor on, and because I can understand, he says, well, the darker the color will sink down, and when you're outside, the light is generally from above, right? So he's just letting gravity do the work for him, but it ends up being pretty sloppy, really. I don't know. Maybe
the only effect is sloppy.
Yeah, it's pretty sloppy. So I don't like it. Like, what I like to do is with the filbert when I'm doing watercolor is I would do it this way. I end up painting upside down because I want to push the paint along. So with the brush. And that ends up, then the shadows end up where they're supposed to be, right? But anyway, because with watercolor, it's fun to move like you use the water. Like, he doesn't use water on the watercolor paper either. Like, first you'll decide what color you're putting where by putting the water, like say on the sky, you paint on water where the sky will be, and then you just drop on some blue watercolor paint, and it goes, spreads through the water, but it doesn't go where the water isn't, right? So it's he doesn't do that. Instead, he uses lots of water in his paint, and it just sinks. And with the sky, that's not how the color ends up being. If you look at the sky, well, today it's just gray, so you won't get that effect. But you'll look at the sky sometime and notice where is it darkest and where is it lightest. And you've seen the sky 1,000 times. Go out on a nice sunny blue day, whatever, blue sky, and look at the sky. You've seen it so many times, and you probably think you know where it's going to be darkest color and where it's going to be lightest color, and you'll be surprised. Go out and actually look at it. That's the thing that's interesting about doing artwork, is a lot of the time we have this idea of how things look, and then we're frustrated when we try to draw them because we already have this idea in our head of how things are, but it's not actually the way things are. So we don't see things correctly. And if you look at the Great Courses video on perception and stuff like that, we don't actually see a lot of what we think we see. Our brain is filling in the gaps. And so it's interesting to do art just to be conscious of where you are in the world and where the world is, what is out there.
An example of what you're talking about is if you view the head from the side.
It's very hard
and
to draw.
try to draw it.
Yeah.
You almost invariably, if you're not thinking about it, put the ears too far back because we're emphasizing the face.
Well,
the ears from the side are basically in the middle of the head.
There's a lot of things that you don't realize. You'll try to draw things like they are, and that's why this woman is saying draw it upside down, because it'll keep your brain from drawing where things the way that they're not in real life. So yeah, anyway, so his sketching idea, that I do find it interesting, the gravity letting it sink, but it's sloppy sort of, and it's very, he has a fast, like he does this painting in basically his 81-minute video, right? So it would have taken him a little longer. He clipped some parts and whatever, but probably not much longer. You know, he would have taken longer to, there would have been the time where he was drawing out the building and stuff like that beforehand and all that we missed as the audience, right? And some gaps where he waited for some paint to dry or something like that before he started in on some other stuff. But honestly, it's very sketchy, very sketchy. I don't like this much. I couldn't really learn very much from this, but what inspired me from this was doing people. So today with my ditch art thing, I was going to, that ditch art picture was going to be a crocodile tank. And so I thought, oh, this will be great, you know, with the greens and that, whatever. But then I set it up, and I taped it to my board, and I set it across the room, and I was just looking at it, and I kept seeing faces in the thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess because I was watching this, then now I'm seeing faces, so I'm like, well, I better just go along with that and work with it. And I tried sketching out where my faces were on a separate piece of paper first and deciding, okay, what am I going to do with this? And that wasn't working at all for me, so I thought, well, you know, if I wreck it, whatever. So I just started playing around with it, and that's what happened. Because it wasn't working with me sketching it out anyway. But, I mean, I see the faces. I don't know if other people will. But I far prefer doing abstract painting. I don't know if other people far prefer my abstract stuff, but I prefer doing
Elephants do abstract painting, and they seem to get something out of it, right?
Okay. I'm a painting elephant. But anyway, so the cat. Talk about the cat that I did. I was trying to do this cat, I was trying to do her face in the opposite direction because I wanted her facing my squirrel, and I didn't draw the cat's face well enough, maybe, or I don't know what happened.
I think you almost did a better job. Of course, you got the color working for you.
Well, then when I tried doing hair, it just went horribly wrong. And so, well, first what happened is I'd wanted it to look like the cat was inside the glass. And when I'd drawn it, it almost looked that way. I should have put just a little bit of color. But once I put the black color on for the ears and stuff, I started with the black, you know, as this artist did here, how she was showing how to draw the cat. And so I started with the black, and I'm like, oh no, I had too much black, too much pigment, and I could have tried to sponge it off or something like that, and I just went, oh well, it is what it is, I'm just going to work with it.
Exactly right.
So
so I think you'll find that with stuff through glass tends to do all sorts of things.
Yeah, with the reflections and stuff, so it'll cut out part of the images and whatever. And
the other thing is that it gets heated up. You've noticed how glass gets heated up in the sun?
Oh, yeah.
So what's happening is it's absorbing some of the energy coming from the image. And that energy that gets absorbed into the glass doesn't come to you. Yeah. So you don't see, that's why when you did the pencil drawing, weren't putting the colors in. Mm-hmm. It looked more like it was behind glass. Mm-hmm. Glass kind of bleeds color.
So with my abstract painting, I didn't have to do pencil drawing. I just played around with it. I tried doing, like I said, drawing it out on separate pieces. Did 2 separate pieces of paper, drawing it out, and I was like, oh, this isn't right. And then finally, I just decided, well, I'm just gonna wing it. What does it matter? I'm just playing around. So, anyway. Now, this is obviously made for somebody who's, like, it's a mature audience sort of thing. It's not, this one's designed for children, right?
Well, this would be good to start off with. I mean...
Anyway, even if you're an adult and you might be thinking, oh, well, this is sketchy. This will be easier. No, it's not going to be easier. It's going to be harder to do. Anything where you're going to try to do things in real life rather than looking at a picture is going to be harder for you because you won't be able to take the time, for one thing, especially when people moving around. How are you going to do that? Like if you're drawing just the buildings like he did, well, they're not moving around. Okay, that won't be that hard or whatever. But when things are moving around, well, that's a whole different story. So, like especially he's doing a dog part. The dogs aren't staying still. That's for sure. They're all over the place. They're very excited, and you can see his dog right in the front here. He's messed it up.
That's his dog? Oh,
no,
yeah.
it's so messed up because
it's awful.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at it from far away, and,
I know,
but not that far away.
No.
So it looked as though it was a headless dog. I didn't see the head because it's up against
he
the
has
leg.
like he tried to draw in some feet back there or whatever. I don't know what it. Anyway,
and
it's
then
very
he readjusted.
sloppy. Yeah, he readjusted.
I thought it was a
very
headless
sloppy.
dog. It looked pretty gruesome.
So,
looked like it got on someone's nerves in the dog park, and they took a machete after him. So.
I mean, that's something to consider too. This person's a better artist, and they're better equipped to teach anybody, honestly, than this person. And
well, better artists. That's what they're showing. We don't know what this guy's like when he works with it.
True. This is just sketching. You're right.
So,
and maybe he didn't care about it. But I mean, he did a video. Why? Anyway, whatever. I don't know.
With sketching, you can kind of learn to do things fast. You know, like.
Yeah. But.
I mean, when I'm doing German crossword puzzles, when I used to time myself. A big full-page thing. I was happy when I got around 10 minutes. Boom, 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 boom.
Have you managed to find a blueberry in that yet?
No, yeah. No.
Yeah, I know. The blueberry pie, I was very disappointed because I was like, man, it's just, they must have used food coloring or something to do the blueberry color because I ate a piece and I gave most of it to the dogs because I was just like, this isn't worth it. You know, if I'm going to eat some sort of sweet, it better be worth it. And this wasn't, so the dogs got it. They thought it was great. But
so I worked in a raspberry canning factory for a day, 2 days. I was doing 2 different jobs, and what happened is they dump. One day I was dumping stuff on the conveyor belt. They had a conveyor belt, and then they had pickers on either side, and they'd pick off stuff that was just really too bad, green or moldy. I didn't pick much up. And then they put the good stuff in, you know, the baskets and so on and so forth. What came down the end, it hadn't been chucked out. That was for jam. That's what this is, blueberry jam.
Bad.
It was mush.
This isn't even blueberry jam. There's like, I looked at the ingredient list and blueberries were listed right above tapioca / modified cornstarch. So there can't possibly that many in there. And I didn't detect them.
Or you wouldn't detect raspberries in what came down the end in this canning factory. Okay,
gross.
It was just mush. That's what this is.
Anyway, I modeled. I was an art model for a while, and they'd always start the session with. What do you call it? Gesture poses.
Oh, you could have.
No, it always started with gesture poses.
So
and it
you're
was
doing
like you do
they
whatever.
tell you what
you know, it's like some more difficult pose that you wouldn't want to hold for more than a minute or.
So they were having it
like
really
that.
sketchy.
Yeah. So the first, there's just sketches, just to warm them up or whatever. And I never once saw anybody do anything good with the gesture poses.
Yeah.
And if you're one of the artists that I modeled for, I'm sorry to say that if I made you feel bad, but honestly, the gesture stuff, it was a waste of time for
Well,
me
when you're
and
doing
you.
warm-ups, it's not for ballet.
Okay.
It's not the same thing as ballet.
Yeah, you're right.
You're doing this stuff at the
Yeah,
bar,
maybe
so on
it
and
was
so
good
forth.
warm-ups
So
for you. I don't know.
it might
as an
work
artist,
out.
but
Yeah, exactly right.
But watching this reminded me of watching somebody just doodle out some gesture poses. It was not. I honestly, I don't think anybody had learned anything from watching this video. I was very disappointed, and whereas people could learn a lot of things from this book, whether you're
Not
older
just
or
kids.
young. So, why did Cobweb get the top of the stack? It's just a silly horror movie. Well, it's a silly horror movie that has an interesting sort of, like, one twist comes, and then another twist comes, and you're like, oh, wow, okay, so it just keeps twisting, and there's some spooky parts and whatever, and the kid did a great job acting. It's about a little boy who's scared in his room. He's scared. And he has a lot of reason to be scared. He goes to school and he's scared because there's somebody picking on him and whatever. And he's just this cute
Just
little
one
boy.
person.
Well,
I'm telling you.
so he's scared a lot of things. And you don't know at first, is he just, is it just sounds that he's hearing or whatever? He's a little boy, and his mom's like, oh, he has an active imagination, whatever. And you think, well, maybe that's possible. That could very well be. But anyway, it's tough to find a good child actor, and they found one for this, and it works. It works. So, worth watching. Interview with the Vampire Season 1. The grown-up actors in this were worse than the child actor in that. Seriously. So bad. Not everyone, but it's certainly two of the three leads. And anyway, so bad. So it's very hard to watch. And frankly, I didn't care because I was doing artwork, so whatever. So that's all I really had to talk about.
I was just going to mention
Sure, you can mention all you want to mention.
with kids learning. Really, adults, one of the big problems why they don't learn, I think, as adults, like at all, is they don't want to look innocent, or they don't want to look.
Yeah, they'd rather
like a
pretend
kid.
they already know everything.
Now that I think about it, that's one of the big problems with professors. Many of them, most of them. They want to look like they know everything. And, being a professor, it should be about discovery, not about knowing a lot. What's the use of knowing a lot if you can't discover new stuff from that stuff that you know? And, they've got a big problem, because they say, I know, why would they want to learn anything more? And what I mean by learning, there's two different types of learning. We should come up with a different sort of discover. They don't want to discover anything more. Man, oh man, it really bummed me out having to get my PhD and learning all that stuff. I don't want to learn anything more. I'm afraid that's the way it is. And of course, students will ask questions, and instead of saying, well, this is what we've been told, but, some of these things kind of look funny. There are these discrepancies. It's just my way or the highway, that sort of stuff. So, it is a big problem in this world today. It's a big problem when it comes to politics. It's a big problem when it comes to religion. It's a big problem when it comes to sociology. It's a big problem when it comes to economics. No one wants to learn anything. Capitalism has failed. Communism has failed. Socialism, as practiced anywhere in the world, with the possible exception of Europe, and there it's funded by capitalism. All of those systems have failed, and like capitalism is actually had the best success rate. But after 2008, like in conjunction with 1929, pure capitalism, anything even approximating it, we know now doesn't work. They talk about creative destruction. The capitalists. It ultimately is good when we have an economic. They talk about the 1930s, an economic fallout. Oh, creative destruction! You wouldn't believe the technological innovation that happened during the 1930s. Yeah, it could have been better if there'd been funding for folks doing the innovation. Yes, it went on because it wasn't a total crap out. But the problem is World War II was destructive. Destructive destruction that came out of 1929 through 1932 and the first few days of 1933. Hitler was elected early in 1933, and that's when the economy started to turn around. Mm-hmm. The Japanese,
and feeding the birds.
I was going to call them terrorists, but militarists, they did a lot of terrorists, let me tell you.
Come on, babies.
They'd had the technology that the Germans had. Their kill rate would have, I think, been higher than for the Germans. Mm. How much time?
3 minutes or something.
3 minutes. So, people don't take it if they're unemployed in anything like an urbanized society. And there are very few societies that aren't seriously, heavily urbanized. Most places, I think, is more than 50% urbanized. So people are sitting in town and they're not employed. How do they eat? And so someone comes along with a simplistic solution. Someone like Donald Trump, Hitler, who's that idiot? Lenin? Not John Lennon. He was pretty idiotic, but he was talented. Come on. Elvis. Stalin was part of that movement. Now that was a problem caused by World War I. But it was stunning. The problems in Russia during World War I. They were thoroughly incompetent. Their army was, and people got killed. People don't like dying. So it doesn't matter terribly much if they're dying in a war or dying from starvation or more slowly malnutrition or something like that. They kind of get a little bit exercised and not in the Pilates way. And they start looking for extreme solutions. And believe me, they'll find them because they're out there. They are final solutions. And it's not just for the Jews, it's for people that end up being the demons, for the people that they get demonized. So it's the Jews with Hitler, plus capitalists, plus gypsies, homosexuals, or gays, or whatever the current term is now, so on and so forth. But with the commies, it was kulaks, it was bourgeois, as they called them in Russia. They should have been saying bourgeois. So they went and just killed them. Yeah, those guys were socialists. You socialists out there. We're pacifists. Yeah, you're Sputniks. You're fellow travelers of commies.